And away we go. So, all right. Oh my gosh, I'm glad you're here. My name is Jonathan, and in 51 minutes, I will tell you the three pillars to really start selling your first $12 million properties. You might sell a $12 million property, awesome, or it might be 12 $1 million properties. Either way is cool. So, real quick, people ask, like, who am I? Well, my name is Jonathan. Uh, I've been a realtor for 14 years. I'm a realtor just like you. And gosh, I struggled. So, my first 2 years in business, well, I shouldn't say I struggled. I did well. I did 10 million my first year in closed sales, a little over 14 million my second year. But my wife was like, you got to find a different way to do this, or you got to find a completely different job. And I really enjoy what I do. So I didn't want to find a different job. So I decided, all right, I'm going to find a different way. And so that's what I did. Most people never sell high-end real estate homes because they follow what everybody else is doing, right? Um, the quickest way to struggle or to fail is do what other traditional realtors do, because most traditional realtors, what's the stat now? 85% of them get out of the business every 2 years, right? And the ones that do survive make an income in that $30,000 to $40,000 mark. I think it was 44,000 the last I saw. So between that second and third year, I said, okay, I've got to do something that's totally, completely different than what traditional realtors do. And I kind of knew what to do, but I was just kind of stuck as well. So I went out, I hired two business consultants, people that had nothing to do with residential real estate, and paid them a little over $80,000 to teach me and to create a complete proven signature system that not only I could do, but any realtor could do. And so that's what I've created. Looks like my internet's a little wonky, so hopefully it'll survive through this 50-minute call. So when selling high-end homes, you really need to map the mind of a high-end buyer, right? But even before I get into that, let me go back a step real quick. Like, there's probably a chat box on here, or you can unmute yourself. What is your definition of success? And most people never ask that question of themselves. And that question is a very personal question, right? But like, what is your definition of success? For me, my first 2 years in residential real estate, I don't have my awards, I put them over there. But for me, the definition was I wanted the plaque of Realtor of the Year. I wanted the plaque of Rookie of the Year. I wanted the plaque of I sell lots and lots of homes every single month, right? So basically, after my second year, that's when I sat down and I said, okay, what is my definition of success? And for me, it wasn't those things, right? It's not about working 80 hours a week. It's not about being gone for all my kids' activities. It changed. And it really changed to three big things. Number one, I wanted an income that was $800,000 a year or more. Number two, I wanted freedom. Freedom to me means I want to be able to go on a vacation one time a month for 1 week and just not have my world crumble, right? And number three is I wanted contribution. I really wanted to contribute to people. So between that second and third year, I created the CPSS, Complete Proven Signature System, which I still use today. I still sell real estate today. But I did 27 million in sales that third year. And I worked with, I worked less than 55 hours a week. And I believe that year I might have worked with 30 clients total, 30 buyers or sellers. Um, so that to me is the really big three component is you need to build, if you want to build a really great real estate business, I would recommend it's got a large income to it. I would recommend it gives you a large freedom component to it. And I would recommend that when you do work with your buyers and sellers, you feel like you're contributing. It's not that they're just using you as a taxi cab driver, right? So, so awesome. To get through that phase, though, I had to go through the 4 pillars of failure. Pillar number 1 is the ability to fail. So I had to ask myself, am I willing to fail, right? And step 1 is, do I have the ability to fail? All humans have the ability to fail. So I was like, check, I got the ability to fail. Number 2 is, did I have the willingness to fail, right? This is where 95% of humans check out and say, I just don't want to fail. Cool. It's very hard to have really good success if you're not willing to fail, right? So then the third step is the wantingness to fail. So during that 3rd year, as I was doing 27 million in sales, having the freedom that I wanted, having the income that I want, and the contribution that I want, I was more and more wanting to fail, right? I was more and more wanting to say no to certain buyers and sellers. And then the 4th level is I just wanted to fail bigger and faster, right? And this is why most realtors get stuck never selling homes in the top 25% of their market, because number 1, they don't think about they need the ability to fail. They don't want to fail. They're not willing to fail. And they're stuck just selling $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 homes all day long. I didn't want that. My wife didn't want that anymore. So I started to focus on the top 25% in my market. At that time, it was Minnesota, Twin Cities. Now I'm in San Diego. But the moment I said, I'm going to start selling homes in the top 25%, was the moment I started selling homes in the top 25%. I was like, you know what? I'm good enough for this. I don't have to wait to get some designation, GRI, CRS, QQQ, and all that stuff, because a luxury buyer and a luxury seller doesn't care about any of those acronyms, right? So it goes back to, you got to get in the mind of a high-end buyer or a high-end seller. So let's just take a seller who's in the top 25% in your market. What do they want? What comes to your guys' brains as to what they want? You might have to unmute yourself. But what do they want? Or it might be easier for us to start with, okay, if you're working with somebody in the bottom 25% of a price point in your market, what do those people want? Because those are people who we're working with probably a lot, or in the bottom 50%. Yeah, they want to get the most money for the sale of their house. And then when they buy, they want to buy it for less money. Yep. Awesome. Working with people in the bottom 50%, do they talk about commissions a lot? Yes. And they talk about, like, you're not worth that commission. Or they talk about, like, well, Sally Mae, she'll do it for 1%, so why don't you match what she does? Even in that 50% and under price point, these people they're constantly asking, like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do different, right? That upper 25% of the price point in your market, they are not into chiseling, right? They did not get there because of chiseling. And what I mean by chiseling is paying less than market value for something. Does that make sense? Like, even Warren Buffett's a big believer of, like, When's a good time to buy? Like today, right? And when's a good time to sell? Like never, right? He's very much long-term buy and hold type of stuff. So the people in the top 25% of the price of the market they're willing to go to Starbucks and pay $4 for a cup of coffee and not argue about it. They're willing to buy a BMW and pay the $80,000 for the BMW. Does that make sense? Because if they didn't want that, the BMW person would say, hey, it's just what we charge. So if you don't want to pay $80,000 for a car, you don't have to. You just need to then go buy a Honda, a Toyota, that type of thing. But if you want a BMW, if you want a Mercedes, if you want a Ferrari, if you want a Lexus, it's going to cost more than, another brand out there. Now, these top people in the top 25% in your market, because every market has them, they got there because they were, number one, willing to fail, right? So they look at somebody like me and they go like, oh my gosh, I have instant connection with you because I know to get where you got to, you were willing to fail. You were willing to pretty much put on the hat that says, I'm going to sell homes in the top 25%. Does that make sense? Because that's the same way they did it. I don't care if they own an auto body shop, they run a hospital. At some point in their life, they put the hat on that said, I'm good enough to be the CEO of this hospital, right? Not in a cocky way, but in a confident way. And I know that people in the top 25%, they do not care about any acronyms. They don't care what company I'm with. If my name happened to be Scott or Fred or Bob, I'm pretty confident they would still do business with me. So it's not my name, it's not my pedigree. It's about one thing and one thing only. And this one thing is they want their home sold for the highest possible price in the time frame they want with the least amount of stress on them. And it really is only the bottom two. So price point, sure, they want it sold for a decent price, but what they really want, sell it in the time frame I want with the least amount of stress on me. So when you're selling high-end homes, it's very important to understand that and understand that these people are not interested in awards, accolades, or any of that stuff. Because most of them are silent, wealthy people anyway. Does that make sense? People you've probably never heard of nor will ever hear of. So they're not into, I'm number one. In fact, gosh, I just saw an article recently. There's 8 real estate companies in America that claim they're number one. So Joe Q Public already knows, like, it's tough for them to choose a realtor because they lump us in as all the same. Does that make sense? You're a realtor is a realtor is a realtor. And so I tell people, yeah, that's very true, except for a couple of components. And then I go into those components. But gosh, I don't know if I'll have time for this, but I got to tell you, like, now is a great time to be a residential realtor. But really, it's not about being a realtor. It's about being an entrepreneur, right? So if you want to be a realtor, awesome. You're going to make 30, 40, 50,000 a year. If you want to be an entrepreneur who happens to be a realtor, the world is your oyster. Does that make sense? That's a huge difference. And it's a very slight difference, but it makes all the difference in the world. So Deloitte & Touche, which is a big accounting company, they came out, this is about, 2 years ago. They said global wealth in the last 10 years, so from 2005 to 2015, global wealth increased by 68%. That's a lot, right? And this is during, like, the housing crisis, okay? So anybody who tells me like the economy is rough or the economy is bad, they're not hanging out with the top 25% of the people, okay? Because the economy for the top 25% of the people tends to always be pretty good. I remember back in 2009 and 10, people were telling me the market is challenged. And I'd go to Walt Disney World, I'd go to Disneyland with my kids, and I tell you, those parks were packed with people. And they're selling $8 hot dogs and $7 sodas. And I'm like, somebody's buying this stuff. So the economy's not bad. What we might need to do is put on a new hat and put on this hat of I'm an entrepreneur, right? So along with this, Deloitte and Touche came out. They said the number of new millionaires is going to hit unprecedented growth and double by the year 2020. Well, they came out about 7 months ago and they said we were wrong. We said it would double by the year 2020, the amount of new millionaires on the globe. It's actually going to triple, right? So I guess the big key is you got to decide, do you want to keep selling homes in the bottom 25%, the bottom 50%, the bottom 75% in your market? Or are you kind of sick and tired of being sick and tired and you're like, let me start selling them in the top quadrant? Cool. To do that, you got to be okay being a freak. So a friend of mine was having lunch with him and he goes, Jonathan, you're just a freak. And I was a little taken back by it because I don't get called a freak that often. And he's like, you've made $800,000 a year or more in income for the last 12 years, and you don't really work that hard at it, right? And you're only working with 23 buyers or sellers a year. That is a freak. And then he gave me the definition. I want to read it to you. Freak, a person who is obsessed with or unusually enthusiastic about a specific interest. And I was like, yeah, I love helping people in the top 25%, right? That is unusual because most people, when they get into residential real estate, it's all about, well, how can I do a first-time home buyer seminar? And how can I work with a move-up buyer and all this kind of stuff? And I'm like, let's just cut to the chase and let me just help the people that are buying their fifth home, right? They've already gone from the condo to the townhome to the single family home to maybe a little better single family home. And then he told me, he says, you know what I got to tell you too is let me give you the definition of normal. Normal is conforming to the standard or the common type, being usual. And when he said that, it's like I drink a lot of Diet Pepsi. So I spit out some Diet Pepsi by accident because I was like, yuck. I'm like, I do not want to be usual. And he said, exactly. That's the premise of your complete proven signature system is it's anything but ordinary. So there's really 4 switches we got to switch if we truly want to be an entrepreneur who happen to sell residential real estate, who happens to sell real estate in the top 25% of the market. Number 1, you've got to be passionate about what you do. If you are not passionate about what you do, you will lose to another realtor in your area who is, okay? Now, when I say passionate, like 95% of the work that I do stinks. 5% of the work that I do is awesome. And it makes up for the other 95% of the stuff, which is drudgery. Does that make sense? So this premise of like, well, every minute of every day, I got to feel happy with the work I do, throw that out the door. Because 95% of the stuff you're going to do, you're not going to want to do, right? But the 5% is going to be awesome. It's just similar to like, well, right now we got NFL starting up. Oh man, what a great game last night. And I love watching NFL because, well, it's preseason, but you got the best of the best players have been at training camp for 1 to 2 months already, right? I guarantee you they're not like, this is exactly what I want to be doing. Like Tom Brady's pretty good at what he does. He still goes to training camp, right? And he gets it. He's like, I gotta be there because I gotta master this. I gotta get better at it. And it's not my ideal. I'd rather be on a beach, swimming in the ocean with his kids, but it's what I do because the 5%, the aspect of winning every game, being undefeated, that's like mega thrilling. So number one, you got to be passionate about what you do. Number two is you got to be passionate about why you do it. Okay? So one of the reasons for me why I do it is because I've seen traditional realtors mess things up a lot, right? Traditional realtors, it's called canceled expireds, right? Anytime a seller goes expired, that means they were working with a traditional realtor. Some realtor that doesn't want to tell them the truth, right? So finding out the value of homes is pretty easy. It takes me about 7 minutes. You can tell me any home out there on the globe. Within 7 minutes, I'll tell you within $25,000 plus or minus what that home is going to sell for. So I demystify this, right, to a top 25% seller. Many times they ask me, well, how does that work? I'm like, well, let's take your car you got in the garage. You got I don't know, they say they got a Jeep Cherokee for their daughter and it's a 2014. I go, great. If we took this car to a dealership, even if it was a Mercedes dealership or Toyota dealership, which isn't a Jeep dealership, how long would it take them for them to tell us what your car is worth? And they're like, yeah, it'd probably take, minutes. I'm like, exactly. It's going to take about 10 minutes a time. And if we go to 12 dealerships in town, they're all going to be plus or minus a couple $100. So finding out the value to your home is going to be easier than that. Number three, let's see here. So number one, be passionate about what you do. Number two, be passionate about why you do it. Switch number three is be passionate about who you do it for. Like, why are you doing this, right? Why did you decide to get into residential real estate? Who are you doing it for? It goes back to me. I want to have a great income. I want to have freedom, and I want to contribute. I want to contribute to my clients, but I really want to contribute to my wife and to our kids, right? And I can't do that if I'm constantly stressed out all the time about all the minutia that happens in a real estate transaction in the bottom 25%. And the last thing you really got to be passionate about is like how you do it, right? So it's not just about helping somebody buy a home or sell a home. It's how you do it. It's the reason Apple Computer is able to sell phones that are 3 times more than the competition. And they're the same phone. It does the same function. It's how they do it is totally different, right? Cool. Let's see. So I used to work 80 hours a week. I don't anymore. I have a very high-end system that works for attracting, and I think that's a very important word. I would underline it. Instead of chasing buyers and sellers, start attracting buyers and sellers. It's going to make your life much, much, much easier. Okay, so the 3 ways I do it. Number 1 is attract. I attract 16 premium leads a month for buyers and sellers. That's it. I'm not interested in attracting hundreds of leads. I'm not interested in attracting thousands of leads. I'm interested in attracting 16 leads a month. That's it. But they gotta be cool people, right? Cool people to me are they're buying or selling in the top 25%, and they're just nice, right? They know what they want. They're not gonna chisel, and they're just kind people. So that's attract. The second big thing that I do is once I attract 16 really cool leads a month, I know I'm going to convert 8 of those into an initial consultation. And this is part of my initial consultation. With those 8 people that I meet with for an initial consultation, well, I won't get into that yet. So when I get a premium lead, most realtors start talking all about them and about a house that the person called off of and this and that. I don't talk about any of that. Most of my buyers and sellers have no idea that I've sold $391 million of real estate. They have no idea because I don't tell them because they wouldn't even care if they did know. Does that make sense? But what I go over is the green machine, which is the first 10 minutes of my initial consultation. And in fact, I'll give it to you guys right now. So this is my initial consultation for buyer seller. I tell them, hey, the first 5 minutes is about me, but really not about me and my 4 kids and how I was born in Nebraska. It's about me and how I can benefit you, right? So the first 5 minutes is really how I can benefit you. The next 5 minutes is I'm going to ask you 7 questions to really find out if you should move or just stay put. And either way is cool. And then I just dive right into it. So we got mutual permission to reject. I say, hey, you may want to work with me. You may not want to work with me. Your 4 options. Oh, and either way, I say it's cool. Because again, I got 16 leads a month and I'm meeting with 8 people. Out of the 8 people I meet with, I'm going to work with 2, maybe 3 of them a month. And I go over your 4 options. You can do nothing. You can sell on your own. You can use a traditional realtor in San Diego. There's 21,603. Or you can use somebody like me. And my purpose, I go over my purpose. I go over my 3 promises to them. So I tell them, hey, I'm always going to be on time. And then I usually bring out, I always carry maybe $10,000, $15,000 of cash with me at a time. I would recommend you do the same. And you fan it out. And you put it on the table in front of them. Because when you do this, does this get their attention? Yeah, I'll just say it does. Way more than any other jibber jabber you'd ever say. Because they already know most realtors are going to jibber jabber about their company. And they're going to say they're one of the 8 firms in America that's number 1. I don't go into that. I just say my promise to you, I'm going to be on time. If I'm ever late, I owe you $100. Number 2, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. Not just honest, brutally honest with you. If you think I ever tainted the truth in any way, I owe you $100. Number 3, I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. So like this morning, I had an appointment with my stager at 9 a.m. For a house that I'm listing. I was on time. My stager was on time. But if we weren't, I would have paid them $100 on the spot. Because I told them at 9 a.m. we would be there. Cool. Do you think somebody in the top 25% of your price market would appreciate those kind of promises? Instead of just like, I'm a trustworthy person, I'm a kind, caring soul. Awesome. Everybody's trustworthy and everybody's kind. But these kind of promises with some backing behind it, that's what's going to be, oh, is somebody offended? Throw money in their face. Okay, yes. In the bottom 25% of the market, they're going to think I'm a drug dealer. In the top 25% of the market, do you think they got some cash sitting around their house? Or a couple 100,000 sitting in the bank? Or a couple million sitting in the bank? So, but when I walk in, I'm just like one of their golf buddies, or I'm like one of their lady friends at the salon where they get their hair done, or whatever the case is. Does that make sense? So I have to get into their world, right? Hey, as my newest client, these are the things I'm going to do for you. Bottom line, I'm going to get the job done. I'm not going to let you down. So like, gosh, recently I had somebody, they came over to give me a bid on painting my house, and it was classic. right? That this guy's got to deal with people in the bottom 50% for painting houses, because he kept telling me about, like, I'm going to use this kind of paint. It's got this kind of warranty and blah, blah, and all this stuff. And after about, I don't know, 50 seconds, I couldn't take it any longer. And I just said, hey, his name was Javier. I'm like, hey, Javier, so I'm sure you do a good job. Like, I got to just trust you, right? I don't have time. I'm not going to call your references. I'm not going to do that. That just sounds not interesting to me. All you got to do when you're talking to people in the top 25% of the price bracket, just say this, Javier. Cut through all the nonsense. In fact, I'll let you read this out loud to me, Javier, and then I'll hire you. Because this is all somebody wants in the top 25%. All you got to do, and he did it. He said, bottom line, Jonathan, I'm going to get the job done properly for you, and I'm not going to let you down, period. I shook his hand, Javier, you're hired. Then he said, well, you don't even know the price yet. I said, I don't know. I trust you're going to take good care of me. And then he gives me the price. And I said, Javier, that's ridiculous. I am not going to pay that price. And he was a little taken back. And I said, that price is way too low. I want you to paint my house like it's your house. So what price do I need to pay so that you get this thing painted properly? Just like you said here. And then he's like, well, if it was my house, I would also fix this part where it's a little rotted. I'd do this. I'd add some kills to this, and I'd do this. And I said, sweet. So that's what I want you to do. And he said, well, that'll raise the price by $500. I said, sweet. I want to pay you $1,000 more. He kept looking at me like I got antenna coming out of my brain. But he's like, wow, you're different. I said, yes, I'm a freak. A freak is somebody that's very obsessed with specific things. Does that make sense? Mark Zuckerberg's a freak. Warren Buffett, a freak. Anybody who plays NFL football, a freak. Does that make sense? So we need to be okay with the word we're a freak and get rid of being normal, right? If we want to be normal, we'll make $42,642 of income next year as a traditional realtor. We won't have freedom. We won't have contribution. Gross. Does that make sense? We got to get rid of that. So anyway, so Javier's painting my house. Do you think I get some pretty good business from Javier? Let's just shake our heads and say yes. Because Javier is painting homes for the top 25% of people all around San Diego. Why do people get their homes painted most times? They either want to sell their house or they're just like, hey, it's been 5-7 years, let's paint it. So there's a really good opportunity. Javier is bumping into people daily who are my perfect ideal clients. And my marketing expense to get those people is to pay Javier $500 more than what he asked for. Does that make sense? So every service provider I use, I pay them more money. So my air conditioning guy comes out, he says it's $400. I go, $400? There's no way I'm paying $400. I'll pay $500, but there's no way I'm paying $400. Right? So now I've got service providers all around San Diego who are bumping into people and, hey, we're selling our house. Oh, wow. Okay. That's why you want it painted. Sweet. Have you decided on a realtor yet? No. Oh my gosh. Let me call this guy Jonathan. Hey, Jonathan, I'm sitting here in the driveway with these people. Do you got time? And then away I go. Right? And I sit down, I meet with them, I do my initial consultation. And I get a pretty good, decent number of listings from that. And it's relatively free. Does that make sense? So cool. So then I go into going back to the IC. I do my performance guarantees for buyers, my performance guarantees for sellers. And then I go into the 7 questions. And the 7 questions are, let me show you. Although I wrote this thing called Guide to Your Success probably 12 years ago. Because this is when people were coming up to me going, well, realtors were coming up to me going, how are you having such good success and you're not even from Minnesota? Like, you don't like the Minnesota Vikings, you don't like the Minnesota Twins, you talk about the Chicago Bears, which is not a good thing, I guess, to talk about in Minnesota, and people do a ton of business with you. And I said, well, it's my initial consultation. It's that I'm willing to be a freak, I guess. I'm not normal, and I'm willing to ask these 7 questions. And oh my gosh, you can see I've used this a lot. But the 7 questions, let me see. This is a guide to your success I give out to folks when they come to the 3-day event or the 30-day accelerate. But like here's one that I did recently. But it's these 7 questions. The 7 questions are nothing about me. It's all about them. And usually within 10 minutes, I go, great. Well, based on what you told me, I recommend we sell your home. And they usually go, yeah, let's do it. And then they sign the papers. And then maybe they talk about like, well, what price should we sell it for? Or what's your commission? But I don't even get that objection at the initial consultation because I'm doing the initial consultation totally different than what a traditional realtor is doing. Does that make sense? Nothing in my initial consultation is about me. Like, let me show it to you again. I mean, these are the exact pages, right? So there's no logo on my thingy. There's no picture of me saying I'm the best ever. There's no, I mean, it's pretty darn basic. Does that make sense? Awesome. I also don't have a business card. So if you have business cards, get rid of them. No one's going to keep your business card. I'll teach you a much better way to connect with people than giving out business cards. Does that make sense? When somebody gives me a business card, I just think they're like dripping with salesmanship, right? So I'll teach you a different way to do that. Awesome. So we got the attract side of the triangle. We're looking for 16 cool premium leads a month. Convert side of the triangle, we're looking for 8 initial consultations a month. Out of that, you're going to start working with 2 to 3 really high-end premium buyers and sellers. The reason you're not going to convert all of them is because, number 1, you don't want all of them. And number 2, you're honest with people. So if I go to somebody's house and they want 1.4 million for it and it's worth 1.1, because my promises are I'm honest with you, and if not, I owe you $100. I don't like giving people $100. So I got to say, well, that's great. You want 1.4, but it's going to sell for 1.1. And there's some people that go, well, we don't want to use you then. And I politely shake their hand. I say, have a great day. Right? I'm not into handling objections. I'm not into pulling people's teeth. A friend of mine says, like, you're not a dentist. Most realtors are all into pulling people's teeth and forcing them to buy or sell. I'm like, yeah, I'm not a dentist. I don't want to, I'm a 2.7 GPA student. So I wouldn't even be able to memorize the 72 objection handlers out there. And that's it. So it's attract, convert, deliver. And when you work with those 2 people a month, deliver such a cool experience for them that they introduce you to more people. That's where I'm putting my energy. Does that make sense? But I'm not like, oh my gosh, another thing too, and we got to start wrapping this up. There's 4 big components that I teach at the 30-day accelerate and the 3-day live event. Number 1 is you got to have a calendar. So here's my calendar for this week. And orange are the times that I'm available to show homes. So there's a lot of white space in here. Does that make sense? And during that white space, this is where I watch the grass grow. So if you don't have enough freedom in your life to just watch the grass grow, you should really sign up for this. So if a buyer says, hey, I want to look at homes on Monday night at 8 o'clock, well, I can't. So I tell them no, but I could do it Tuesday, or I could do it Wednesday at this time, right? I'm setting my schedule just like a physician sets his or her schedule, just like the Dallas Cowboys have a schedule. They know the time that they're playing their games, they know the practices. And outside of that, the coach is like, do whatever you want to do, just don't go to jail, right? As long as you don't go to jail, do whatever you want to do. And sometimes even coaches are okay with them going to jail, but we're too short for that. But anyway, so everybody has a calendar that starts like this. So I teach people how to, okay, let's create your ideal calendar. And we create 1 week, and then we just duplicate that week for the next 52 weeks. Now, there's some things we got to put in that calendar, right? So there's 11 different ways that I teach realtors how to attract really cool premium high-end clients. We have to put in some prospecting things for that, right? So there's going to be some work. It's not like I'm not cold calling expireds. I'm not cold calling FSBOs, but I might have to call some of my friends. And I'm definitely going to teach you how to connect with a lender so that this lender starts to send you $1 million of business a month. I'm going to teach you how to work with a builder so that a builder starts to send you $500,000 of business a month. I'm going to teach you what to do online and what not to do. I'm going to teach you what to do in print media and what not to do. Truth be told, I don't do a lot of social media stuff. I don't even know if I have a website for my real estate company because it wouldn't even matter. Does that make sense? It's like the top 25% of the people, they ain't going to your website, right? That guy who came over to paint my house, like, I don't go like, what are your references? Let me look at your website. I'm not interested in that. I just want the job done properly. And I want somebody to say, I'm not going to let you down. Perfect. You're hired, right? Because people in the top 25% of the price bracket, that's how they hire people in their companies. Does that make sense? Like the man or woman who is running the hospital, they have somebody else doing the hiring. And then when it gets to the time for them to like have a 1-minute coffee conversation, they just look at the person and go, hey, so what do you think? You want to work here? And the person goes, yeah, cool. The CEO says, sweet. We'll get you your badge, and I'm looking forward to seeing you at the Christmas party. You know, that's how they roll, right? So cool. So you got to have a calendar, but you got to have the right stuff in the calendar. So often traditional realtors, they're mastering in really minor things. And what we want to do, we want to take the 3 things that really matter and do those and those only. Does that make sense? So it's going to be a little counterintuitive. It's almost going to feel like, for me, I felt guilty because I come from a household, like my parents worked hard, right? And the first year I started doing this, making $800,000 a year of income and working less than 50 hours a week, and then year in and year out having that kind of result, but working 50 hours, and then 45, and then 40, and then 30, and then 31, and then 28. I felt very guilty because I almost got to tell my parents, like, I work 100 hours a week. I think it makes them feel better. So, and then another thing I do, I put everything, I track everything. So this is my lead tracker. And then I have this is a blank one, but this tells me exactly what to do day in and day out. So many times I'll go on a listing appointment, and truth be told, I'll just walk in with this, and they're just like, hey, so what makes you different? I go, oh my gosh, if you really wanted to boil it down, what makes me different? Here's my calendar. And this is exactly what I do. And these are my prospecting things. And when I do them, I cross them off. And then these are the times I'm available to meet with people. And usually one, if not both of the spouses at that point, they're like, you're hired. Because they're used to dealing with a traditional realtor that's like, Here's my paraphernalia. Here's my this. Here's my that. I've been around since the Mayflower landed. Da 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 da. All this nonsense. And when I show somebody my calendar, they know no other realtors got that. Does that make sense? Because most realtors are very scattery all over the place. And I tell them, when you decide to work with me, if you decide to work with me, Fred and Sally Smith, you got to realize, like, I don't have a team. I don't have an assistant. So, like, when you choose to hire me, I'm your one and only contact. And if you don't like that, you shouldn't hire me. But if you want really, really good VIP service, not from somebody 5 levels below me, but from me, then yeah, I'd be a good fit for you. And I'm telling you, people love that. Does that make sense? Because most other realtors in the higher end market, they know they're going to see them at the listing appointment and at closing, and that's about it. Because they're selling hundreds of homes and all this stuff. And I'm like, I only work with 23 clients a year. So like once I got 23 clients, I'm done. So last year I was done on, it's either June 4th or June 5th. And it was like, I'm done. So it's hard for me. Truth be told, sometimes I do sneak out of the house. And, I tell my wife I'm getting like some milk or something, and I go on a listing appointment, but she usually finds out some way somehow. And so it's a bummer. But yeah, there's no law that says you got to work 12 months of the year. So for me, again, it goes back to, I want freedom. I want income, at least 800,000 or more. And I want to contribute to people's lives. And for me to contribute to somebody's life, I can't help hundreds of people in a typical year, because I'm just going to start to not really care about humanity anymore. They're just going to become a number. Does that make sense? Cool. Oh my gosh. So that's really some of the pillars to selling high-end real estate. Really getting your first, let's call it $1 million transaction, or really your first, call it $800,000 transaction, or maybe in your market, the top 25% is a $600,000 transaction. It doesn't matter. All that matters is that you go out and you start getting and working with people in that top 25%. Because once you get one, it just snowballs. So I'm doing something, it's starting on Monday, and it's called a 30-day accelerate. And on Monday, we're going to go over, first off, the Freedom Multiplier. And the Freedom Multiplier is really cool because we're going to really get crazy focused on what your 3-year vision is. And then we're going to map out who is your perfect ideal client. And then for the next 3 weeks, we're going to go out and get some of those cool clients. We're going to get some of them via open houses. Even though you might not have a single listing, I'll teach you how to go get them. And I'll teach you how to communicate with people in a different way that they're going to eagerly want to meet with you without you asking them, what's your blood type, how long you've been looking for homes, and all this other nonsensical stuff that many traditional realtors do. I'll teach you how to connect with your database, although we narrow it down to 200. There's a gentleman, his name is Will. He started with 30 people that he connected with. His first event that he had with them, he garnered a little over 20, is either 27,000 or 31,000 of new gross commission income. I forget the exact number. And this event, he takes people out for chicken wings. He's from Durham, I think it is. I don't know if that's North or South Carolina, but one of the Carolinas. And I guess chicken wings are big down there. So yay, good for him. I teach you how to reignite with people that know you, like you, trust you. And not only to help them, because that's not the premise, but for them to introduce you to people in that top 25%, because they know those people, right? So I worked with someone recently. She's a good friend of mine. She's a secretary at Callaway Golf Clubs. You know, the person that answers the front desk at the big whatever. And she introduced me to the CFO of Callaway Golf Clubs, and I listed and sold his house, right? All because I treat somebody nicely, right? Um, we're going to go over what to do in print, what not to do. We're going to go over how to actually connect with your current clients on Tuesdays and Fridays so that they introduce you to more really cool people. We're going to go over how to find a lender that once and for all starts to send you $1 million of business a month. We're going to go over how to get a builder to send you 500,000 of business a month. Just those two things alone are life changing. I'm going to show you how to properly do a housewarming party. I'm going to show you how to properly do a going away party. And I'm going to show you how to write a thank you note. And it sounds really basic. People are like, wow, you're going to teach me how to write a thank you note. I'm like, yeah. George W. Bush Sr., the older gentleman, he was asked, how would you become president of the United States of America? He said, I write 2 thank you cards out a day. When I heard that about 14 years ago, I was like, I'm going to do that. And I've been sending out 2 thank you cards a day now for probably 13 and a half years. Now, granted, I send out 2 cards a day, 5 days a week, and only the weeks that I work. So I'll teach you as well how to work about 40 weeks a year and really take 12 weeks of time off where you could like leave your cell phone in your desk drawer if you desire. You don't have to be attached to this thing all the time. It's not needed. And the whole premise of this is to help you add an additional $25,000 of income within 30 days. Now, this might not be closed because you and I are realtors. We're probably not going to have a closing within 30 days, but there's a good chance you'll have a pending, and there's a very good chance you'll be working with some buyers or some sellers that are in the process of that. So that's one component to it. The next component to it is I do a 3-day live event here in San Diego. It's at Rancho Bernardo Inn. And it is, I'm looking at my calendar. It's September 7th, 8th, and 9th.
Can you hear me?
It's 7th, 8th, and 9th. And on that, I go over from A to Z exactly what I've done to go from 0 to $391 million of closed sales.
Can you hear me?
During that 3-day event, I guarantee you that by the end of that 3rd day, you will have a very clear picture of how to add $300,000 of income to you within 12 months. So if after that 3rd day, you're like, hey, Jonathan, I don't see how I can add 300,000, or you're just like, I just don't want to. I don't see anything of the 11 different ways that dazzles me. So perfect. I refund you back 100% of what you paid, and we part as friends. Let's see here. I want to show you something real quick. So to go to this, to sign up, you go to profits. Well, I'll just go here. Profitsandpassions.com. And the reason I call it Profits and Passions is I believe every realtor in America should be making $300,000 of income a year or more. And they should be having the time of their life doing it. So passion, my passion isn't necessarily selling homes and that kind of stuff. My passion is hanging out with my 4 kids and my beautiful bride. We've been married now for 25 years and a couple of months. But anyway, you click on this tab, September 7th through 9th live event. You then click here. This button, it's going to...
estate agent from Phoenix, Arizona, known as the Pumpkin Man.
Oh, it's nice. Dan? Dan's one of our clients who came. You'll see on here, this is where you sign up. It's $2,998. And that gets you both this 30-day Accelerate, which starts on Monday, and it's 4 weeks of live video training with the goal of getting you $25,000 of income in the hopper within that 30 days. And you can come to the 3-day event. And at the end of that third day, if you're like, hey, I just don't see how I can add 300,000 of income, just let me know. You get to keep all the materials and we part as friends. When you sign up electronically, you get a bunch of stuff from me, but the biggest thing you get is this right here, Guide to Your Success. This is 104 pages of exactly what to say and how to get the 11 proven ways to attract really cool clients. And what I want to do, because, the 3-day event too, I should mention, it's limited to 30 realtors. And the reason it's limited to 30 realtors is I'm kind of an introvert by heart. And I really, really want people to get the material and to be able to then go back home and apply it. So another thing too, and this is good just, I think, through the end of today, so through midnight today, if you type in freedom under the promo code, and let's click apply, let's see if it's still working. It might be. Okay, sweet. So it's still working. So basically, it'll take $2,000 off of the price. So it then drops it down to $998. But that's only good through today, and only if there's less than 30 people. So once it hits 30 people, then that is closed. All right. So yeah, it's the 30-day Accelerate, which starts on Monday. It's the 3-day live event, which is in September. If somebody cannot make that September event, just send me an email or a text, and I'll get you set up so you can attend the one that's in November. So you don't have to be like, oh my gosh, what if I can't make the September 7th, 8th, 9th? Awesome. There's also one that you can do November 7th, 8th, and 9th. But if you're interested in saving money, it would be wise to at least sign up today because, like I say, typically it's $3,000. So type in that code FREEDOM, enter the promo code, it'll drop it down to a little less than 1,000. And guaranteed. So like I say, come to the 3-day event. If you don't feel that you can add 300,000 of income within the next 12 months, let me know. I refund you what you paid. We part as friends, and away we go. So, all right, we got time for maybe about 5-6 minutes of questions. Does anybody have questions on that 30-day Accelerate or the 3-day event? And you might have to unmute yourself. Oh, let's see. Someone is asking, "Hey, can we bring our business partners for a discounted price?" Great question. Anybody that comes, it's $3,000. So, or I guess in this case, if you purchase while there's tickets left, which I just did, it looks like there are, and you do it before midnight tonight, then instead of that $3,000 per person, it's $1,000 per person. Can you do the 30 days separately? Yep. The 30 days separately, I think, is $3,000. So you can do it separately. It just doesn't make any sense to do it separately. You might as well do the 30-day Accelerate and come to the 3-day event either in September or November or maybe even next year as well. So awesome. Great questions. Anything else, rock stars? I know someone was asking a question earlier, and I might have muted them or unmuted them. So you can tell techie stuff is not my main thing. Someone was asking me too earlier today on something else. They're like, what do you use for a CRM? This is what I use. So my CRM is just a binder. And then every time I get a lead, I'm jotting down their information. And then I put it into my real CRM, I guess, which is this one. And then I jot it down on my lead tracker. And then on my lead tracker, I'm really focused because I only call people back 2 times a day. And I would recommend you do the same. and it starts with people that are like higher commissions. So this person, it's a $60,000 commission to me. I'm going to call them before the person that it's a $20,000 commission. And I don't get through all my calls every day, and I don't feel too guilty about it. And I also tell people, like, I'm really not interested in taking your information to follow up with you. So, yeah, if you're interested in a realtor, like following up with you and kind of harassing you, I tell them I'm not the person for you. But if you're interested in a realtor actually helping you out and actually serving you, then yeah, I can help you out. Yeah, someone was asking, what's the website? It's Profits, Profits, and AND, Passions, PASSIONS.com. And on there, I'm sure I go over like my results and results of other people that put this stuff into practice. But yeah, I teach you how to do an open house so that you make, well, gosh, Anderson and Oliver now, they're very obsessed with the vital few things, but they do 3 open houses a weekend, and they generally generate about $90,000 to $110,000 a month of new gross income potential. But I want to warn you, they're good at saying no to shiny objects, which is something we talk about quite a lot. Awesome. Anything else? Any questions you guys got? Oh, I should check my chat stuff. Okay. Are you obligated to another payment or more than 30 days if you sign up? Nope. So some people do the 30-day accelerate, and they come to the 3-day event, and then they go home. Awesome. At the 3-day event, I don't leave anything out. Like my life is pretty simple, and the way I do residential real estate is very simple. So you get everything that has allowed me to go from 0 to 391 million. Some people are like, hey, this is awesome, but I need some accountability. I need some help, right? And then they apply to be part of my Freedom Club. And this is limited to 52 realtors, where I actually, we hang out, 100 plus times in a year, and we really put this stuff into action. Yeah. Let's see. You stated that you help us build a business we want and love. Right. Yes. Well, I am a freak about new construction. Sweet. Awesome. Okay. So, yes, I will teach you how to get a builder to send you $1 million of business a month. I will also teach you how to get a lender to send you $1 million of business a month. And they kind of go hand in hand. So like in Minnesota, oh my gosh, I could name off all these builders I worked with. I worked with one builder, McNulty. It's Jim and John McNulty. They both have their real estate license. They had 4 or 5 licensed realtors on their team. They hired me to come in and sell a few of their $1 million neighborhoods. And they paid me a 7% commission. And that's pretty sweet, considering these guys got their own license. They got other people that they're paying to do this stuff. So yeah, I teach you exactly how to break into that and start working with these builders. The dialogues are so simple. They're so easy. They're based, as long as your GPA is 2.7 or higher, you're going to do well with it. So I taught an 18-year-old, this is 3 years ago now. She worked with me and the complete proven signature system between her senior year in high school and her freshman year in college. She made $38,000 of gross commission income that summer. She worked with 2 people, 1 buyer, 1 seller. So then a friend of mine's like, well, Jonathan, you must have got lucky. So the next summer, I worked with her and another guy, Sam, who now they're 19 at the time. And they both did well. Sam did a little over 40,000. And then the next summer, he did close to 50,000. And these are, gosh, well, they're 18, 19-year-olds. What can I say? You know, so it's, I love them to death, cool people, but they didn't have that fear. Does that make sense? They were like, okay, I got the ability to fail. Cool. All right. Am I willing to fail? Yes. Do I want to fail? No, but I'm going to have to. So yes. And then they just want to fail bigger and faster. Does that make sense? And it's like anything. It's like, who wants to go to football practice? Not many people, but you do because of this outcome it's going to give you. You know, who wants to eat healthy? Not me, but I do because I just want to live a fulfilling life. Does that make sense? It's good. There's a really good book, and it's a book I give people often, is this here. If you have not read it, I would buy it, and I would read this thing once a week. Any other book you have, you can put it on the bookshelf, put it in a box. Just read this every week. If this is the only book you ever buy, well, next to the Bible, have two books. You got the Bible and you got Rhinoceros Success. That's it. This thing is all about charging full speed ahead towards every opportunity. It's called Rhinoceros Success. You can see I've read this a little bit. I got so much highlighted. I got yellow highlight, orange highlight, blue highlight. I got tabs torn out. Yeah. If you really, really want to start earning an additional 300,000 of income within the next 12 months, if you really want to start learning how to sell homes in the top 25% of your market, get signed up for the 30-day Accelerate and the 3-day live event. Like I say, usually each of them are $3,000 each. But by typing in that code, FREEDOM with a capital F, it'll take it down so that you basically get both of those things for under $1,000. Sweet. All right. I got a skedaddle. You guys do too. If you're interested, awesome. I'd love to help you out. And get you rolling, get you started today. I think it's really important to make that decision of like, okay, if I keep doing what I'm currently doing, I'm going to probably keep getting what I've currently got. So if you want to like simply like flip the switch, let me help you flip the switch. Sometimes people ask me like, well, what makes you different? Well, one, I'm not a professional speaker. I'm not a professional motivator. You guys know probably who I'm talking about, right? You got all these people out there that are telling realtors what to do, and they themselves have never sold homes, or they've sold homes like in the $100,000, $200,000 price point. I'm not that kind of guy, right? I'm going to tell you exactly what I've done and what I currently do, just like on this appointment I went on today with $1 million plus seller. So, that $1,000 to attend the event, it's 100% guaranteed because you come to the 3 days. I'll teach you how to add an additional 300,000 of income to you. If you don't feel that you can make that, then just let me know. Keep all the materials. We part as friends. But I would say probably on the first day we meet at the 30-day Accelerate, I'll probably save you a few $1,000s a year in expenses because you're probably paying for stuff that's worthless. All right. Hey, let's see. Thanks. Okay. How many seminars do we have this year? I have one in September, and then I have one in November, and that's it. Awesome. Oh my gosh, the people that do best with this are the people that are like, I don't have any money for it. And then they go out and they invest in themselves and they crush it, right? Because they have to. Does that make sense? It's like when I went to college. I went to college, I didn't have money for college, but I took out loans, and I think that's what helped me get through it. Does that make sense? If I would have been a trust fund baby and my parents paid for my college, I don't think I really would have ever gone to college, or I would have gone to college, but I would have never attended classes. So yeah, I think investing in yourself is a great option, especially if you're going to follow a complete proven signature system. All right, rock stars, have a great day. Have a great, whatever today is, Friday. Bye. Hope to see you guys soon.